In the courts of 19th century Iran, beauty was not an abstract idea. It was painted in miniature, stitched into silk, framed in gold, and eventually captured by the early lens of a camera. During the Qajar era, which lasted from 1796 to 1925, royal women, especially the princesses of the dynasty, became living symbols of an aesthetic ideal that may seem unfamiliar to modern eyes, yet was deeply rooted in Persian culture and courtly tradition. After the dynasty was founded by Aga Muhammad Khan Qajar, it was under rulers such as Fath-Ali Shah and later Naser al-Din Shah that courtly art flourished with particular intensity. Fath-Ali Shah, known for his long black beard and carefully staged royal image, understood the power of visual representation. Large oil portraits of the monarch, his sons, and members of the royal household were commissioned to project authority and refinement. Within this artistic environment, depictions of royal women followed their own carefully defined standards of beauty. In Qajar visual culture, feminine beauty was stylized rather than naturalistic. Painters emphasized features that symbolized grace and nobility. One of the most striking elements was the unibrow, known in Persian as abru-ye pevaste. Thick, dark eyebrows that met in the center of the forehead were considered highly attractive. Rather than being altered or removed, this feature was accentuated. Kohl was applied generously around the eyes, not only for adornment, but as a mark of sophistication. Large, almond-shaped eyes framed by dark lines conveyed depth and serenity. Pale skin was another prized characteristic. In a society where outdoor labor darkened the complexion, fairness became associated with refinement and elite status. To achieve this luminous appearance, women used rice powder and mineral-based cosmetics to lighten the face. The goal was not simply whiteness for its own sake, but a visual language that signaled privilege, indoor life, and separation from manual toil. Body shape also reflected cultural ideals distinct from those later promoted in Europe. In Qajar art and early photography, royal women often appear with rounded figures. A fuller body was associated with health, fertility, and abundance. In a world where scarcity and hardship were common realities for much of the population, physical fullness symbolized prosperity. The aesthetic was not about fragility, but about presence. Clothing amplified these ideals. Qajar princesses wore garments crafted from silk, velvet, and brocade, often imported or produced at great expense. Fabrics shimmered under palace light, embroidered with gold and silver thread. Pearls, emeralds, turquoise, and rubies adorned necklaces and headdresses, reflecting both personal adornment and imperial wealth. These jewels were not mere decoration, they were political statements, visual reminders of the dynasty's resources and legitimacy. The cut of certain garments in the mid-19th century also evolved under limited European influence. Shorter skirts worn over loose trousers became fashionable within the court after diplomatic contact with Europe increased. Yet even when styles shifted slightly, the underlying Persian aesthetic remained intact. Clothing framed the body in a way that emphasized curves and poise rather than concealment. The reign of Naser al-Din Shah marked a turning point in how royal women were visually documented. Fascinated by modern technology, he introduced photography to the Iranian court and even practiced it himself. Unlike earlier painted portraits, photographs offered a more direct, though still carefully staged, representation. Members of the royal harem, including princesses such as Taj al-Sultaneh, were photographed in controlled settings, including private palace spaces. These images, which survive today in archives and museums, have often surprised modern audiences. To viewers accustomed to Western 20th century beauty standards, the prominent eyebrows and fuller physiques appear unconventional. Yet these photographs serve as powerful reminders that beauty is not universal or static. It is shaped by culture, politics, and collective imagination. The harem itself was not merely a space of seclusion, as Orientalist narratives once portrayed it. It was a complex social and political institution within the palace. Royal women could exert influence through family networks, patronage, and cultural production. Some were educated, literate, and engaged in artistic or intellectual life. Taj al-Sultaneh, for instance, later wrote memoirs reflecting on her experiences and criticizing aspects of court society, providing rare insight into the inner world of Qajar women.
In this context, the visual presentation of princesses was part of a broader system of representation. Portraits reinforced hierarchy and lineage. Jewelry signaled alliances. Costume reflected access to global trade routes. Even posture carried meaning, calm, composed, and deliberate. As photography spread in the late 19th century, Iran entered a new era of self-documentation. Unlike many earlier dynasties, the Qajars left behind an unusually rich visual archive. These images now reside in institutions and private collections, studied by historians, anthropologists, and art scholars. They are not simply curiosities, they are evidence. They show how a society defined elegance, status, and femininity within its own framework. The contrast between Qajar aesthetics and later westernized standards in Iran highlights how dramatically ideals can shift within a single century. By the early 20th century, exposure to European fashion, cinema, and global media began to reshape public taste. The unibrow, once admired, became less common. Silhouettes grew slimmer. Cosmetics changed. What had symbolized nobility in one era could be misunderstood in another. Yet to judge the past by present standards is to miss its meaning. The Qajar princesses were not attempting to conform to some future global norm. They embodied the values of their own time and place. Their appearance was a reflection of cultural continuity, courtly ritual, and dynastic identity. Today, when their portraits circulate online, reactions range from fascination to disbelief. But beyond the surface lies a deeper lesson. Beauty is never fixed. It is a mirror held up to society's priorities, its economics, its gender roles, its artistic conventions, its political aspirations. The Qajar court used art and photography not only to preserve faces, but to project an image of order and refinement. In doing so, it unintentionally preserved a record of how 19th century Iran understood itself. The princesses, adorned in velvet and gold, gazing calmly into painted space or early photographic lenses, were participants in a visual narrative far larger than themselves. Their portraits endure not because they match modern expectations, but because they reveal how fluid those expectations truly are. They remind us that standards we consider timeless are often temporary. In every era, societies craft their own definitions of grace and attraction. The Qajar princesses stand as luminous evidence that beauty, like history itself, is always shaped by the culture that beholds it.